You may not have heard of this one yet, but trust me when I say you're going to want to watch this. All year long, I've been talking about how 2023 is the year of the knife, and you might be tired of hearing that if you've been watching this channel. But the truth is that every month a new knife comes out that I absolutely adore, and they've been under the $100 price range, which I think is absolutely fantastic. If you've got a knife in mind that recently came out under the $100 price range and you want me to know about it, let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, if you could smack up that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. And it tells YouTube that you appreciate knife content. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And today we're talking about this guy. This is the Civivi Hypersonic. I know, crazy name. Designed by Gustavo T. Cecchini, also known as GTC, and made by We Knife Company. How good is it? Let's talk about it. This is the Civivi Hypersonic, designed by GTC, also known as Gustavo T. Cecchini, and of course, made by We Knife Company, or Civivi. They're the same thing. So we're going to talk about where did it come from, what are the specs, what's good, what's not so good, what's bad, and then of course I'll give you my final thoughts. Let's start off with where did it come from? So this one I did get from White Mountain Knives. Shout out to White Mountain Knives. And by the way, if you head on over there, make sure to use my discount code RSB10 for 10% off. For the specs, we're looking at 8 3/4 inches for the overall length. So it's not a small knife by any stretch. It's got a 3.7 inch blade. And of course it weighs 5.91 ounces because it has steel handle scales with a G10 inlay. It's got steel backspacer and a 3D milled steel pocket clip. This is of course a frame lock with a single-sided captive pivot running on bearings for that smooth action. You do have your options of either flipper tab and or fuller for the deployment. There we go. And guys, it's pretty decent. Now, I do have to give a shout out and some props to GTC because they won not one, but 2 awards at Blade Show very recently. And that's pretty dang cool considering that there's so many designers at Blade Show that there's a lot of good competition out there. Now, if you do follow Blade HQ, they say that this 14C28N is going to range on the hardness scale of 58 to 60, which is right where you want it for 14C. 14C is an amazing blade steel, guys. It is very good. If you like LC200N, this is 14C is basically LC200N. It's got very good toughness, very good corrosion resistance. It holds an edge for a decently long time, not as good as say like D2, but it's going to be easy to sharpen and it takes a very nice sticky edge. Let's talk a little bit about the ergonomics. It has this finger cutout right up here, which is nice because it's going to give you a full purchase and a very confident, detailed grip on the spine of that blade for some more detailed cutting and some more control. And I'm all about controlling the edge of the knife, especially when it is close to 9 inches. It has this 3D milled steel pocket clip. I had to stop myself there because I wanted to say titanium, but it's not. I really like this pocket clip because it's proof that we don't have to have stamped steel clips, guys. We could have a 3D milled steel pocket clip. And you know, steel is not as hard to manufacture as titanium. So I think that more companies should do this and should get away from the stamped steel clips that just look and feel cheap. And sometimes they create a hot spot and sometimes they just don't even work that well. Not only does this work well, but it also looks good and it doesn't get in the way of the ergonomics. It disappears nicely in the hand and that's fantastic. More on the good front, the action on this knife is damn near perfect. I'll say it again, it's damn near perfect. And a lot of that comes from a very well-tuned detent. Can you fail on the deployment? Yeah, but you have to physically try very hard to fail it. Like I'm talking like really try to not be opening this knife and you might fail it. But other than that, you try to open this knife like a regular person, you know, like someone that actually wants to get their knife out. And it doesn't take much. It's going to deploy very reliably, very snappy, and very quickly. You know, the bearings and the detent make for a great combination on this knife because the blade flies out quickly and with authority. And, you know, if I had to guess why they called it the Hypersonic, I'd say it's one part design and the other part is just how quickly this knife deploys. It's not super thick here on the spine of the blade or behind the edge, which is going to allow it to be very, very slicey. You're going to do very nicely on the draw cuts and on the pull cuts. You can switch up your grip very well, and you can do a reverse grip if this is your jam. And so the ergonomics are very versatile, and the shape of the blade is going to make it great for utility use. Could I see this as a good EDC knife? Sure, but before we go into that, let's talk about the not so good. And there is one thing in this category, the weight. Now, is 5.9 ounces, is that a deal breaker for me? Absolutely not. I'm a full-grown adult human being, and 5.9 ounces or 6 ounces, you know, that's not going to pull my pants down. It's not going to cause me any grief. It's not going to, you know, upset my day. But there is a lot of people out there who are going to look at that weight and say, well, I could have a 3-ounce knife. And then they'll move on and they'll never get to experience this because it just doesn't meet their weight parameters. And it's not like they didn't think about how heavy this knife was. If you look on the inside there, you'll see that they did mill out pockets on those steel handle scales in an attempt to make it weigh less. Also, because the blade is not necessarily that thick, you know, it's just one of those designs where no matter what, it's going to be over that 4-ounce mark that a lot of people seem to arbitrarily think is the heaviest knife they should carry. So that's sad to me, is that I know that there's going to be people in the comment section saying, dude, it's too heavy. 5.9 ounces is a brick and I'm not going to carry it. For the record, I've carried Midgards messer knives that weigh close to 12 ounces and still not apologized to anybody. But it does make me sad knowing that that's going to be a deal breaker for some people. The bad, well, to be honest with you, there really isn't any bad. This knife is fantastic. It feels good in the hand. It locks up. It's perfectly centered. There's not a lot of room for it to not be centered, so you'd know if it wasn't because it'd be rubbing against the side of the handle scales. It's got a great detent. The pocket clip works well. I love that it has this back spacer, and that's really nice. It's really nice. You know, some people might be asking me, dude, you know, $90. Like, I feel like Civivi, I could get a good Civivi for, you know, 50, 60 bucks. Well, listen, sencut has taken over that area. Sencut is now the budget brand for We Knife Company, and Civivi is now entering their mid-premium line. I won't call it fully premium because it's not, but they are running into premium designs with sub-premium materials, and this kind of fits well in that category. I think that anything under $100 is going to be what I would call a budget knife, especially in today's day and age where we have the benchmade narrows going for $500. So yeah, at $90, I do think that it's worth it. You get 14C, really nicely done steel handle scales with perfect inlay work on this G10, perfect action, perfect lockup, a 3D milled steel pocket clip for crying out loud. Yeah, $90 feels right on this design because it is overbuilt, but it's not necessarily unusable in its overbuilt nature. I love the fact that this knife has a design that looks futuristic, but actually functions really well. It's not too over the moon as far as the design language goes, but you can tell that GTC put a lot of work into designing this knife. And he won not one, but 2 awards at Blade Show for his designs, and so I can see why this definitely doesn't disappoint. If you guys are interested in this piece, I will link to all the current retailers that I know of where you can buy this, and I'll let you make up your own mind. But let me know in the comments section down below. Have you picked up a Hypersonic? Are you planning on picking up a Hypersonic? If not, why not? I'm Rollshambo. I'll catch you on the flip side.